really? When you
I was invited into his home with his wife, and I heard that he had severe burns on most of his body, so I was really nervous about going into his home, but he had invited me, and so I went, and it was one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had as a writer. He showed me his burns. It wasn't uncomfortable at all, and it really affected me because he was so welcoming and wanted to share his story, and I felt it was my duty to tell his story with all the facts and also present a more personal side to it as well, just because he was such a kind man, and his wife really wanted to be part of the story as well, and it was just really neat to be able to talk to him in his home and get a feel for who he was and what a hero he was. And so that made me love my job.
I love it.
To anyone else, she was just a sad story of a crippled woman. But Steve Kotlowski, she was the same woman that he married many, many years ago. He loved her no differently and thought of her no differently, and took great joy into taking her to the lake 3 or 4 days a week, which she said that she really enjoyed. After that, I went back, made a blog post about it on my photo blog. A couple weeks after that, I get an email from their daughter. She had found the post, told me how it moved her to tears, and she thanked me basically for telling their story, for telling it honestly, for not looking at them as some sad or odd story, but just telling the story of a man and wife who loved each other dearly, and nothing would change that. Essentially, she thanked me for being a journalist.
The biggest thing I remember is when I started out as a writer, my first story was to interview Kelsey Jackson Williams. He is just as pompous as his name sounds, so it was kind of a difficult story to work with. Eventually I got the story and I turned it in, and I'm thinking, great, this is perfect. I actually wrote a news story instead of a feature story, which was really embarrassing. The editor called me and let me know, hey, you didn't quite do this right. But he actually called me in, and I'll never forget Christopher Sheldon sitting down with me and going over my story and what I could have done to make it better. And I ended up going back and rewriting the story and working with Kelsey a little more to get some background information, and working with his parents to get some more information to the story. The skills that I learned from writing that story helped me pass reporting and FAR. So
I sent a writer out to just find out who was behind Pistol Pete, just interesting feature story. Comes back to me with one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard. Apparently, the Pistol Pete had been doing his job because of for his father. He had actually passed away before he ever actually got to see him as Pistol Pete, and he was just doing it for his father, and it's just this incredible story. And the writer turned it in, and I was just sitting at my desk and reading it, and it was just his first draft. But after the second sentence, I was in tears. I was crying, and I couldn't believe it. And I can't think of anything about the paper that's impacted me like that.
I just remember sitting talking with him and had the tape going. We were sitting for like 20 minutes, and about halfway through, he started talking about his dad was Pistol Pete back in the 70s, and he was the first legacy to make Pistol Pete. I remember saying, "Oh, by the way, can I give you dad's information?" as I pull back the tape. And then he kind of looks at me and gathers himself. I can tell in his eyes that he has to just compose himself, and he says, "I actually want to talk to you about that. My dad died 2 years ago." He ended up saying that his dad died before he could try out. And I was so taken back because for the last 2 minutes I figured out the story idea about him talking about his dad. His dad inspired him to do it, and his dad's coming to the Georgia game. It's going to be a great opportunity to meet his dad and talk to him there. And to find out that all these happy memories came first before he ever mentioned his dad died. At this point, I had no clue what to do. But later that day, I got the call from Jacqueline and tell me that it was going to be Tulsa World. I was able to call my mom and tell her that I can't get her no college, but I can get her Tulsa World. And then seeing my name in print in Tulsa World has kind of solidified that I still want to be a newspaper writer. And then reading some of the web comments on the Tulsa World about the story and hearing how he's inspired people in Tulsa. And then I got Ran and a couple other papers, and it's just, I finally realized how important journalism is. And although it wasn't something about some city council mess up, Derek Dillard's story was important to people. And I just felt special that I had the opportunity to help share that story.
Since I've been here at the Yale College, I've done several exciting things. I got to interview Sarah Coburn, world-renowned opera singer. I've got to cover a strip club story, so nothing's really off limits here right now. I'm looking into child care options here at OSU and the fact that most of the other Big 12 universities have child care and we don't. So you can go anywhere you want and look into anything you want. And that's one of the reasons I want to pursue journalism, and I enjoy working at the Yale College.
Work for the Yale College. It's awesome.